Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our video review of the beautiful Honor 9 Lite. This is a affordable mid-end smartphone from the folks at Huawei under the Honor line, and specs-wise, it's actually very similar to the Honor 7X, which found critical acclaim just a few months ago. It includes a Kirin 659 chipset, which is octa-core. It's designed in-house by Huawei, and it has either 3 or 4 gigs of built-in RAM, 32 or 64 gigs of built-in storage, $170, which makes it affordable, cheaper even than the Honor 7X. It's a gorgeous design that's reminiscent of the flagship level phones that Huawei as well as HTC have released over the past few years. So taking a closer look, what's different compared to the 7X is we have quad cameras on board. That's the selling point of this particular phone. So 2 cameras on the back, which creates bokeh-like effects using a primary 13 megapixel and a 2 megapixel for depth sensing. And we have the same sensors on the front as well. Now, one other difference is that the screen size on this phone, the 9 Lite, is a little smaller than the 7X. It measures 5.65 inches diagonally as opposed to 5.95, so it's about 5.7 inches or so. It's much more compact and easy to hold thanks to the use of the 18:9 aspect ratio, which is a kind of full screen display with pretty small bezels on the sides, and it's more similar to an older 5-inch phone in terms of footprint than the 7X, which is more like a 6-inch device. As a quick size comparison, here it is next to a full 6-inch phone. This is a Smartisan Nut Pro 2, so you can tell that it is a lot smaller. Now, one area where they were able to cut down on costs a little bit is on the frame. The phone is made out of plastic on the sides as opposed to aluminum, but otherwise it still feels very solid in terms of construction, and everything is very flush. In terms of the software experience, we are talking about EMUI, which looks very familiar by now. We've seen it plenty of times on past Huawei devices, also on the flagship Mate 10 Pro, and on here there's not too many surprises. We have all the gestures that we've come to expect and like on EMUI, and by default there is no app tray or app drawer, but you can easily bring this back by digging into settings. Overall, it's a very complete customization, and there are a few neat tricks on board, such as the universal search that includes a QR code scanner by default, so you can scan products and it tells you the pricing and information online. I do like that it's built on in. You don't have to install a third-party app just to scan up various products and their QR codes. So let's take a quick look at the camera performance first. I would say that the overall quality is very similar to the Honor 7X, which is a good thing because the 7X does have excellent cameras for the price point. Perhaps the Xiaomi Mi A1 and the Mi A2 does have slightly sharper and more natural looking colors, but those are phones that are also slightly more expensive than what you'll find here. For the price, again, Huawei have done a very good job. Colors are accurately represented, as you can see here, and there's also plenty of detail as well. And I can swipe from the edges here to change things like the resolution, geo-tagging, object tracking, and on the other side I can change things like the mode, such as going into a pro mode to fine adjust all the settings, light painting, watermark, filters, as well as an HDR. Let's review some of these sample images here. Again, plenty of detail as I zoom on into these paintings, very accurate colors as well. And again, the display is excellent. It has very punchy colors, wide viewing angles, and because it is a full 1080p panel, Full HD Plus, on a smaller display size, it does have a very sharp PPI. And I do find the quality to actually be better than the Honor 7X in person. It's a little bit brighter with wider viewing angles. So again, very impressive as far as LCD screens go on mid-end phones. Here's another image of this particular book, and outdoor shots also perform quite well when it comes to detail, as well as giving you very accurate but pleasing looking colors as a whole. So again, an impressive camera for the price, I'd say. Now, if we're talking about performance, I would say that it feels, again, very fluid and responsive. The phone does support up to 10 fingers when it comes to multi-touch, but it is, using a fairly low-end chipset in the Kirin family, the 659, which is energy efficient, but it's pretty on par with the Snapdragon 625 when it comes to benchmarks. And what that means is that performance for the money is going to be quite good, but it's not going to be to the same extent as a Snapdragon 800 series or a more expensive Kirin processor. So you'll notice some occasional delays and occasional choppiness as you transition back and forth between the screens of the interface, but as a whole, still is more than responsive for daily use and navigation. So in terms of the software, on the left side, there is a dedicated panel for things like universal search. This is kind of the Huawei panel that is reserved for things like how long you've been using your phone. In addition to showing you your steps, there is a step count or pedometer function. In addition, we have all the standard Google tools as well, including access to YouTube, Gmail, Maps, of course the Play Store are all preloaded by default.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. Storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow through the sun rays.
The overall sound quality is also more than acceptable, I'd say. Even though it's a single firing unit on the bottom that can get covered up, it gets plenty loud and packs more volume than I was expecting. Overall, of course, headphones will sound a little bit better, but for the price, I would say it sounds already quite clean. Jumping into Chrome for a quick web browsing test, we're just going to try and load up the New York Times. But after a few seconds, it's doing its job. Again, performance is extremely similar to a Snapdragon 625 device, so phones like a Xiaomi Mi A2 Lite, like the Mi A1, devices like a Redmi Note 5, for instance, all have very similar performance. You can tell that even video ads will fully render, so it just takes a little bit longer compared to a Snapdragon, let's say 800 series CPU, but as a whole, everything still works. And here's CNET loading up, which is again rendering very quickly. I would say the overall reception quality also is quite strong, so Wi-Fi, even though the router is not in this particular room, has about 3 bars of reception, and the speed, again, is quite fast. Jumping into gaming, let's try a few different titles on here. I would say that for the majority of games that you'll find in the Play Store, they will load without any problems. Titles which are more demanding, such as Asphalt 9 or PUBG Mobile, may struggle a little bit more. You probably should use them at relatively low frame rate settings, and otherwise it will still, of course, play without too many problems. It just takes a few seconds longer to load up before the games will work. But otherwise, again, it still is a pretty enjoyable overall experience. Not too many drop frames either as far as light titles, things like Temple Run and these other arcade-style games are concerned. Again, the phone, because it is fairly energy efficient in terms of the CPU, it remains pretty cool in temperature as well. It doesn't really thermal throttle. It has a 3000 milliamp hour pack, which is definitely smaller than a lot of Xiaomi's phones, especially their Redmi series, which tends to give you at least a 3500, if not 4000 milliamp hours. And because this one has a full HD display, it means that I can typically only get a day's of use out of it. If I have to bench it a little harder because I'm streaming a lot of YouTube videos or playing back a lot of games, sometimes it won't even last me through the entire day. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Honor 9 Lite. And just to summarize, I would say that this is still an excellent option to consider if your budget is going to be under $200. It makes for a great alternative compared to Xiaomi's line of phones, especially because this one I think has a more kind of stylish and sleek overall design going on. It has still very consistent performance, excellent cameras on board, as well as an excellent display. So for the price, I definitely think that it outperforms phones like the Xiaomi Redmi 6, for instance, but whether it's able to outclass devices like the Mi A2 Lite, which has a Snapdragon 625, very similar specs, but an Android One phone, is going to be dependent on the user. Things like double tap to wake up the display, as well as a very fast and responsive fingerprint scanner, all help to contribute to a very well-balanced experience that makes the phone, again, very difficult to beat compared to a Android One Edition phone, which is very clean but might work better for tech enthusiasts, for instance, whereas perhaps first-time smartphone users might actually prefer something like this. You can check out more details in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Honor 9 Lite.